All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Sportstopia Fantasy Fire and Ice NBA edition. Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, along with Stu and Jovan. Montone football. What's going on? How's everybody doing this morning? Well, NBA season starts tomorrow. We're going to get into some season-long player props via the DraftKings Sportsbook. And I also want to talk about some news and stuff that's going to be that took place this weekend and all that kind of stuff. Good morning, gentlemen. What up? What up, Jovan? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Can't complain.
Feeling pretty good about the Philadelphia Eagles, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Phillies going to game 6 up 3-2.
It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on down the up the turnpike, Stu. You know what I'm saying? None of it has trickled down into your neck of the woods. Tough weekend for your Commanders. We'll just get it kicked off on Wednesday night, though, in Indiana versus the Pacers. So what up, Stu? What's going on with you?
Yeah, no, sports are not, popping in my town right now, unfortunately. Jovan's got it all. They got baseball. They've got football. They're about to have basketball. I won't have any of that, but that's okay. Despite that, we can still win some money, and I'll feel a little bit better.
No doubt. Hey, Jovan, kind of a big story over the weekend. Couldn't impact fantasy, could impact win totals and different things like that. Steven Adams, Dunsky, knee surgery, out for the season. Memphis Grizzlies big man done for the season. You think they go like an Andre Drummond route? Do you think it's right there on the roster? How does this affect that team and what they want to do?
I mean, that's a huge loss just because you were thinking, Adams and Jaren Jackson, that was going to be a good, solid defensive front court. But now you're losing that. It's kind of tough because I don't think you want to put, a Santi Aldama in that spot next to Jaren Jackson Jr. So I think, honestly, it's going to, like I said, it's going to be more pressure on Jaren Jackson Jr. to step up defensively and kind of stay out of foul trouble, which is not his MO. So he has to stay out of foul trouble. And then I think for the roster, like you said, maybe if they could get an Andre Drummond, that would be honestly perfect because you wouldn't need him to score. You just need him to grab boards because that's the other thing with Jaren Jackson Jr. He doesn't grab a lot of rebounds, which is crazy because he has the size to do it. So, yeah, it's not good news for the Grizzlies team that's already going to be without Ja Morant for the first, 25 games.
What do you think about this Steven Adams news? Kind of stinks, huh?
Yeah, it's nice. Even if you're a Jaren Jackson fantasy owner, it's nice having that enforcer right next to you, right? Mm-hmm. The absolute tank in the paint that nobody wants to mess with. Because now, like Jovan mentioned, the foul trouble becomes a bigger deal, right? It's kind of solely up to him. He's going to have more perimeter or less perimeter defensive assignments and more inside defensive assignments, which obviously means more fouls. So I agree. We need to get, a backup. I think Xavier Tillman is solid. I think he'll step up and kind of do what he did last year. But as we've seen, I mean, good Michigan State product, but there's just no ceiling.
He's very inconsistent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's at the end of the day, there's, we kind of know what he is. And if you're a championship team, you kind of need to do a little bit better than that. So we definitely have to monitor that, whether it's the trade deadline, whether it's a veteran signing. I think they're got to bring someone in.
Yeah, no doubt. So interesting to see what they do. They got a pretty robust front office. I believe Tayshaun is out there. Yeah, I think it's Tayshaun Prince is the GM, if I'm not mistaken, of the Memphis Grizzlies. I believe so. Is it? Now I gotta look up to see what the Memphis Grizzlies. Is he the assistant GM?
That's a good question.
I think Tayshaun Prince is the Grizzlies GM.
Tayshaun Prince Grizzlies.
I don't believe he's the Grizzlies GM.
Yeah, it looks like
vice president of basketball affairs.
Okay.
There you go. The vice president of basketball affairs. You know what I'm saying? Zack Collins is the GM, vice president of I knew Tayshaun was in the mix. I'm not a fool. All right. Hey, Stu. Deni got some money this weekend. What is Deni for fantasy?
Oh, for fantasy, Deni's not much, but for real life, I'm fired up. I love this guy.
Really?
Yeah, I think this is an underrated player in the NBA. I think he's a guy that can go out there and defend 1 through 4. I don't think there are too many other players like that. And I think, to be honest, we'd be more of a fan of this guy if the coaching staff didn't stick him in the corner for the first 2 years of his career and say, stand there, let Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook do all the scoring, because that's what was going on when he was first coming into the league. I think this is a guy that has some good secondary playmaking instincts. I don't know if you guys are big fans of Dallas. I like what Josh Green does over there, how he kind of he emphasizes every skill set of every guy around him. He brings the energy level up off the bench, a good defender. I think that's the kind of player Deni can be. But frankly, from a fantasy standpoint, the guy's not going to score you 20 points a game. So there's not, a whole lot of scoring ceiling there. But I like the rebounding. I like the defense. Great real life player. Got him for the cheap. Good job, Wizards GMs. I'm proud of you guys for one.
Right, there you go. Well, boy, look at that. A ringing endorsement for Deni Avdija. For Deni, I'm just gonna go with Deni because I'm screwing up the basketball names. It's quite embarrassing, Jovan. You have any thought? You have any thoughts on Deni? Are you this optimistic about Deni?
I mean, even when he was drafted, I always thought he was a solid player. And was just wondering when he got drafted, like, how was that skill set going to fit in with Westbrook and Bill, because those two guys kind of evolved into having the ball in their hands a little bit more. And I think a lot of people, when Deni came out, thought like, all right, this guy can do a little bit of everything. He'll have the ball in his hands. And, like Stu said, they just stuck him in the corner. And it's like, that's not how it works, because now you see, I know these are not too to say, but a guy like Rui Hachimura goes to the Lakers, and now he's looking like the guy that we saw at Gonzaga. So they got, like you said, got him on a good deal. I think I saw somebody tweet that this is the first time like a Wizards like draft pick like stayed since like Otto Porter or something like that. So that's like,
and out of everybody, Otto Porter too.
That's impressive. So hopefully they could do something different, because I don't think, in terms of just ball handling, like Jordan Poole and Tyus Jones are going to be those guys for him.
It's a pool party in Washington this year. It's going to happen.
For better, for worse.
For better or for worse. You got what do you think about Zack Collins getting his money? A lot of people, Jovan, are pretty excited about Collins.
I mean, I low key forgot that he was still playing in the league, and when I saw him got his money, I said, "Oh, all right." Like, he's been a respectable big man, for that team. A guy that, again, you're not drafted high, but a guy that had 11 and 6 last year and almost 3 assists per game. That's solid enough for a team that's that needs depth in the front court. Obviously, with Wemby there, so. Nice, solid deal for a guy that's kind of bounced around and has finally found a home in San Antonio.
What do you think, Stu?
I mean, the guy can't stay healthy. That's why you forgot he was in the league. It's fine to put up stats last season, but it was in a small sample size. Like, I liked Collins as a role player when he was young in Portland, right? And this is a guy that's never been consistently able to stay healthy and stack up those games. So for me, I mean, the money isn't huge, right? I can't really be out here complaining about paying a role player, but at the end of the day, I'm just kind of worried about how healthy he stays. I think if you're a Victor fan or fantasy owner, I think this is probably good news. It shows they're trying to reinforce that front court. They want to take some of the pressure off him, let him play his game a little bit more. So I think Victor, Wembanyama owners should be pretty happy with this. I think they need to continue to solidify the front court if they want him to have a lot of success there. All
right, cool. Let's get ready to hop over here and get into some of these season-long player props via the DraftKings Sportsbook. And I'm looking at Jovan, the points per game leader, and the favorite is your boy Joel Embiid at plus 190. He has the shortest odds. And, if we're talking about this 82 game mentality, obviously if Embiid if he plays that kind of minutes, he's going to be crazy this year. He doesn't get hurt. Some of the other top guys with odds shorter than 10-1, Jayson Tatum, Giannis, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Luka Doncic. And obviously, LeBron James is way, way, way down here at 35-1, right? But LeBron James, Jovan, can actually become the first player in NBA history to get to 40,000 points this year. He averages around 27 a game. He'll get there probably a little after maybe a little before the All-Star break.
I mean, if he's able to, if he's averaging that amount, then the Lakers are probably a top 4 seed in the West without no ifs, ands, or buts. So, I mean, if he gets that, that's impressive. And 35-1, you can't obviously go wrong with it. Like you're not losing, you're actually gaining. But Embiid as the favorite at plus 190 is interesting because I think that's probably also factoring in, no James Harden. So you're losing the points production there. You're hoping maybe Maxey takes that next step as a, more so as a facilitator than a scorer. But I'm not really, all in on that just because Nick Nurse, what we just read, about him using Embiid in a variety of different ways, not just as a scorer. So, using them in all different facets of the game. So I don't know at plus 190 if Embiid's the route to go. Even if he plays, a majority and stays, healthy. I don't know if that's what Nick Nurse has in plan for him.
Stu, curious your thoughts on James going for this milestone, not a record, because really he has the record. So it's this milestone and Embiid with the shortest odds.
Yeah, I mean, I think the LeBron spot, obviously, it's ambitious, right? Because the health is the biggest deal. And we know on a per game basis, he can average 27, right? We obviously know that even last year when the scoring isn't there, even when the outside shooting isn't necessarily there, LeBron can still score 25 in his sleep. So like you kind of said a minute ago, for 35-1, I mean, I think you can do a lot worse. It's just you're betting on health, you're betting on availability. And to me, I try to avoid that whenever possible. And it's kind of the same thing with this Embiid prop, right? You're betting plus 190 for a season-long bet, right? So you have to let that money sit in your account all year long at plus 190 odds. For a guy like Joel Embiid, it just doesn't seem quite worth it to me. I understand the Harden stuff is obviously a big deal, but I don't know about you guys. It feels like that's going to get sorted out in one way or another before the season, whether that means a trade or he shows up, reluctantly. He was at a couple practices. It's not like he hasn't, totally ever shown up. So I just don't see too much value at the top with Embiid.
All right, before we get to the rest, Jovan, quickly, what's the latest on Harden?
I think Woj just tweeted something out this morning. I think he said it's increasingly unclear whether Harden will be available to play on Thursday, and nobody hasn't seen him since I thought last week before, because I think he was, when they left from training camp, I think he was supposed to play that Monday game against Brooklyn. He didn't play, and it was like, all right, maybe he's going to play against the Hawks in the preseason finale, and he hasn't shown up. So it's probably looking like he's not going to show up for Thursday night at this point. I'd be surprised then he's risking a chance of getting fined too. So
interesting, and then again, not interesting because for Christ's sakes, you know what I'm saying already. Let's get to some guys a little bit further down this list. Stu, Jayson Tatum at plus 750 is an interesting one right there. That may be worth sitting in your account the whole season.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say, though, is the new additions, right? I mean, we obviously have Jaylen Brown, who saw a scoring increase last year as well, right? He was up in that 26-point-per-game realm, which we maybe didn't expect from Jaylen Brown. And now you add in a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, you add in a Drew Holiday. I'm just kind of worried they all eat from each other, right? They all kind of slowly take away from each other, and that makes a great real-life team. But for the scoring leader, I think I'd rather go a guy under him right there, a Donovan Mitchell at 20-1, a guy that I know is going to have the ball in his hands with the green light all game, right? We don't have to worry about a Porzingis, a Brown on that team. You're talking about Darius Garland, a solid offensive player. You're talking Jared Allen. These are solid players, but I think a guy like Donovan Mitchell will have all the opportunity in the world. He has the green light. I think that is a little bit better of a bet for me at 20-1 instead of 7-1.
Donovan Mitchell, Jovan.
I mean, I actually agree with Stu. I think that's if that's a play that you want to go on, that's him, because we saw last year he got the volume of attempts, and it's not like Darius Garland is kind of dipping into those things. If anything, Garland is kind of the perfect point guard for him to play next to, where Mitchell is just coming in, just pouring in and getting up shots. I mean, he had the 70-point game last season, so it's not impossible that he won't get, the necessary attempts, on that team. So Mitchell could do it, and if he does, I mean, he had a very good season, his first season in Cleveland, so I think he can definitely do it. He'll probably be maybe a top 5 scorer in the league this year.
He's also playing first contract as well, right?
That's
yeah.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. He is getting that I think, didn't they say he haven't like re-up on the extension, but he is getting that?
Yeah, he can technically re-up himself, but every indication from every reporter I've read about so far this year is saying he is not interested. He wants to go to the Knicks, wants to play under the bright lights, one of those situations right there. So it looks like our guy Corey's frozen right now. So I can move us up on over to another prop that I want to talk about, because this is a player prop show. And since I'm not the host right here, I love this opportunity to jump in and divert this to some Wizards talk right here. I want to hear what you think about my guy, Jordan Poole, because over 24.5 points was the first season long future bet I made this year. And I want to know, am I a homer? Am I crazy? Or are you kind of seeing what I'm seeing right here?
No, I think Jordan Poole at 24, you got to think he's going to get, last season he played all 82, but he only started in 43. This is his first chance to be a full-time starter. And I think we already saw, even in the preseason, we saw the positive negative, right? Like positive, he could drop 41 when he's on. But then the opposite side, he's off. But I think it's going to be more on, just because they're going to need, some offense from that backcourt, because you're not really looking for Tyus Jones to be that, you're not looking for Tyus to be that scorer, because that's not him. You're looking for him to be that facilitator, to get the ball to Poole. And even for, a guy like Kyle Kuzma, Kuzma probably would love to have somebody like this, because it's going to lessen, the attention that he gets offensively. So I think Poole at 24.5 is a very easy, feasible number, because he's going to put up the attempts, and he's definitely going to put up the attempts from three. So I definitely like that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's kind of the same thing I said to Donovan Mitchell. It's opportunity. At the end of the day, I want a guy with the green light. I always say I want to be on the same side as the coaching staff, right? You don't want to be on Twitter complaining, why is my guy not getting minutes, blah, blah, blah. You want to be on the same side as the coaches. And this team, they've talked all offseason. We're going to play with more tempo. We're going to see a little bit more offense this year. And like I mentioned earlier, and like you said, Tyus Jones, that's not really more than a 10 points per game score, right? My guy, Deni Avdija. Gafford at center, right? These aren't like scoring threats. It's him and it's Kyle Kuzma. And both of those guys are going to take a lot of shots this year.
Yeah, for sure. Sticking on that, I do have another player props for points per game that I think people should look out for. It's went up surprisingly, only by like 0.3, but it's Anthony Edwards over 26.3 points per game. I think, everybody kind of predicted him taking that leap just because how we saw him finish, how we saw him finish the postseason, where he really kind of came into his own. And even in FIBA, he actually was probably, you could make the case he's one of the best players on that team with just his innate scoring ability. I think he carries that over this year. You look at what he did last year, he had 24.6 on 45.9% shooting from the field. He took 19.5 field goal attempts per game. So for him to hit this number, he has to stay at that. But I think what was more impressive was his 3-point shooting, which is going up from his rookie year. I think rookie year he was like 33. And now last season he almost got to 37%. I think that's going to play a huge role. And obviously we know Karl-Anthony Towns is there. Like, he's going to get his. Rudy Gobert, you're not really looking for him to score. You're just looking for him to defend and rebound. So I got on the Anthony Edwards wave at over 26.5. And now it's at 26.3, but I still like it either way.
Yeah, no, I like the spot. I mean, he's kind of been the talk of the town. When we did our preview of that division, I mentioned I liked his MVP odds. I think that's something that was worth it. And you mentioned Cat. I mean, you're right. He's going to get his, but this is a guy that's barely played half of a season over these last 2 years, right? So it's one of those situations where you're likely to see a pretty decent stretch without Karl-Anthony Towns. And that's kind of where you get to showcase your abilities. You get to bump those stats up a little bit because the volume is going to be better. And you also kind of get to prove why you're worthy of the MVP, right? If you can really elevate your team to that next level without a superstar. So I like Anthony Edwards a lot. Before we move on from the points, I want to bring up one more guy. We've talked about a couple overs so far this year. I want to bring up an under that I've been looking at. It's Mikhail Bridges. You can find him at 25.5 points right here. I like Bridges, and I'm very happy to see what he's done in the NFL or in the NBA, right? We're seeing the scoring come along. He's improved pretty much every single year since he's been drafted, right? So nothing against the guy as a player, but at a certain point, I think you have to fade a number, right?
Yeah.
And do you come into the season as the Nets coaching staff looking at Bridges and going like, we want this guy to be scoring 26 points every single night? Because I don't. If I'm the coaching staff there, that would not be my game plan.
No, and I mean the way I think his last season split between Phoenix and like Brooklyn was just a massive revelation because it was like, yo, if you were betting like Bridges player props last year, you're like he's hitting like 20 per game like every night, and it's like this is incredible. And then he goes to Brooklyn where he kind of had to be that scorer, and then granted he took it upon himself to do it, and he averaged 26.1. I don't, like you said, 25. Like you said, I don't think that would be good for him because in that team, just because you like also Bridges defending, grabbing the rebound. So I don't think, 25 is just a little too high. Like, can he get to 22? Yeah, 23. Yeah, but 25, I don't see it happening just because you also got Cam Johnson on that team offensively. Spencer Dinwiddie, I think, is going to get his shots in too, obviously. You do got Ben Simmons. I don't think he's going to be scoring a ton, but you do got to factor that in. And then for the Nets, I think for, like you said, the overall success, don't know if you want Bridges, for him to get to that 20, to get to that 25 number, the number of attempts that he's going to take offensively. I think you want to more spread the ball around, everybody get a touch instead of him being the main focal point of the offense.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that's arguably a top 5 defensive player in the league, like you said. And when you're in a playoff situation, you can't be asking him to carry the offensive load on one end and then also the defensive load on the other side. And you kind of touched on it. Last year, the second half of the season, he did ball out. But that was some of the most unscripted basketball we've ever seen in the NBA.
It was.
I mean, it was, here are these guys that have never played with each other. Just go out there and hoop. That was essentially the playbook last year. And that's not a realistic thing you can count on this season. It's not going to be like, we don't know what to do. Mikhail Bridges ISO, quick. They're going to have a little bit more of a plan with this new unit. So I'm glad you're on the same spot right there. I know the unders aren't the most popular in the world, but you got to remember, a guy gets injured, all this stuff. It definitely plays into the under a little bit more than the over.
Yeah, definitely. So should we move on to the rebounding section of this thing?
I think so. I was just taking a look at the rebound leader market. And it's crazy to say a couple of years ago, Domantas Sabonis is the leader to NBA rebounds leader in 2023 at plus 270. Not something I necessarily expected, but do you like the bet? Do you like the number? Do you see value there?
I definitely see value there. I think Domas, going to Sacramento's kind of helped take his game to another level. Like this guy, he's just relentless on the boards. Like he'll give you like 16, but then he'll also like get like 16 to 20 boards, depending on the game. Like he just knows, how to create and build out that space, and Corey's back in the building. We got him back.
I'm back. Thank you.
He's back.
Go ahead. Finish up, though.
Yeah. So Sabonis, I think, he does a great job of just creating space. And, again, Keegan Murray's there in that front court, but he's not really the rebounder. So I think Sabonis at plus 275 is not actually horrible. It's funny just looking at the top names, the top 5 guys, before you get to Steven Adams, like literally all those guys, could lead the lead in rebounding.
I was popping on this conversation right here. Internet troubles, you know what I'm saying? But we got it fixed. I live in a small town. You know what I'm saying? I live in the woods. The internet can go out, but you know what I'm saying? We good to go. They was doing some work right down the street, so everybody's clear now. All right, so check it out, right? So the rebounding situation, how do we think this year 2 of this Gobert situation is going to go with Karl Anthony Towns? You know what I'm saying? Is this last year it didn't look that great, you know what I'm saying? I was going to mention Anthony Edwards earlier as a possible dude that can lead the league in scoring. What are the Minnesota Timberwolves this year, Stu?
I think they're pretenders. I think they're a good regular season team that once we get into the postseason, we're going to see that this center combination doesn't work. And no matter how much you try to jam that square into the circle, it's not going to work. The puzzle pieces don't match right here. There's a reason teams don't run, a center at the power forward position and just hope that maybe he can defend opposing fours. I just don't see this team working in the postseason. I think they're actually a surprisingly good regular season team. I think that combination isn't punished as much. When defense isn't at a premium in the regular season, we're kind of coasting around. We let the scorer score. Because as you said, we know the scorers can score on this team. I think they really get exposed come playoff time.
Oh, that's what it is, huh, Jovan? So as far as the regular season is still a 6-7 in the West?
Yeah, 6-7, possibly playing in that playing range. Well, they'll get in, they'll win, and everybody get excited, and they'll possibly face, whoever at the 1 and 2 seed and get bounced in 5.
What about somebody like Nick? I keep bringing up Nick Claxton. He's become my favorite player. What about somebody like Nick Claxton, Stu? Long shot to lead the league in rebounds.
That was actually a name I was thinking about as well. We just got done talking about the Nets. I think that's a pretty good angle. Claxton's a guy that's gotten better every single year. If he can keep the fouling down, then he's going to be a guy that plays 30 minutes.
A lot of big men, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because the defense is good. The defense is legit, like top-level center defense so far. It's just one of those things of same problem we talked about Jaren Jackson earlier. Can you stay on the court? Because if he can, I agree. I think he actually gives you a pretty solid chance here.
Yeah, Claxton. It's surprising. Claxton was actually one of my favorite player prop over unders this year.
Nice.
And I think his rebounds per game is at 9.5. Last year, he had 9.2 as a full-time starter, essentially. And you just look at that Nets front court depth. Like, obviously, they have Davion Sharp and Noah Clowney, but I don't think, they'll get an uptick in minutes. But like y'all said, if he stays out of foul trouble, he should get over 9.5, and he gets over 9.5, then maybe he gets to that 10, 11, 12 range, and at 80 to 1, that's not horrible for a team that, again, does not have a ton of rebounders outside of maybe him and Ben Simmons.
Shout out to Ben Simmons. The proverbial Ben Simmons mention. Hey, fellas, heading on over to the assists, Ty Halliburton is the leader in the clubhouse, shortest odds coming into the season at plus 205. And then you got, the usuals, Trae Young, Nikola Jokic, James Harden. Lamelo Ball is 6-1, Luka at 10-1, and then Darius Garland at 12-1, Chris Paul at 15-1. Javon, what kind of fit is Chris Paul going to be with the Golden State Warriors?
That's the biggest question
That's the
of all.
magic question, right? Yeah.
Right, yeah, because it's like, are you necessarily going to start him? No, I don't think he's a starter just because you're not benching Steph or Clay, right? And you're not running 3-guard. Well, you might have to run 3-guard lineups because Draymond, right? You don't know about Draymond. So you might put Wiggins at the 4, which, could work. So, I mean, Chris Paul, it's tough to say because he played his last year in Phoenix wasn't great. Numbers went down tremendously. However, I think there's a path for him to, potentially be the assist leader just because he might start a few, but then lead in that second unit. Like, he's obviously their best, floor general option. And he has guys like Steph, Clay, Wiggins, that he can dish the ball out to. And if they pour it in, he'll get the assist.
He may not play enough time. He may not have enough minutes though, right? Or Stu, he could just be like, pre-washed or maybe full washed. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Because here's the thing. Ultimately, they're probably looking for somebody who can do what Kyle Lowry did for Miami Heat last year. Hit a couple big threes in key moments. It's probably the depth of what they're going to get, and that won't start until next year. But as far as the regular season, what do you see from Paul?
Yeah, this is a championship move. This isn't a regular season move. And I'm not saying it's a good move, right? I'm not saying it's going to put them over the top. But like you said, this isn't really regular season game planning from this perspective, assist leader, from, fantasy drafts. I wouldn't be super interested. You kind of mentioned it. The scoring was down last year. It was not as pretty. The one thing I will say, though, is from a real life perspective, I think a lot of people are still disrespecting Chris Paul and the fact that he comes to a team and he makes everyone around him better. That is the quality he's had throughout his whole career. And that's something not a lot of players can do, really uplift everyone around them and make them better players. So he's not going to be a fantasy producer. He probably won't win you too many over bets this season, but we got to put a little bit of respect on his name still.
Well, Javon, a lot of people in the drafts really high on LaMelo Ball at 6-1. Is that worth a play for you? Assist leader?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a big LaMelo guy, and before he got hurt last year, I thought he was putting up, some pretty good numbers. And you look at that Hornets team, it's kind of a mess, really. You don't know, is he a disaster? You don't know what's going on, who's doing what, where they going where. I think for Steve Clifford, the ball's got to be in that guy's hand all the time. Like, the offense has to run through him. At 6-1, I think he's going to have those, 30-point games with like 15 assists just off the whim of the Hornets will probably score 130 and give up like 134 on the other end. So 6-1 for LaMelo is an interesting one, as long as he stay healthy. Because I know last year I think he had the ankle injury right there at the sideline for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Stu, he got those Ball brother lower extremities, you know what I'm saying, where they don't really, I guess they stop developing after you leave UCLA. Or whatever European or whatever team your father made for you to play on, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man Laval. But what do you think of LaMelo this season?
I mean, I can't even think of a comparison for this Hornets team in every sport. And I watch a lot of sports. Like, this is like I don't want to say a joke, but what are we doing here? This is not a real basketball team. It doesn't even look like they're trying to contend. I mean, it feels
it's
like
a 2K team.
Yeah, it's going to be AAU LaMelo shot chucking all season long. So yeah, from a fantasy perspective, I want that. I want the green light. I want a guy that's going to go down the court. But I mean, no defense on this team. There's still no defense in that backcourt. Opposing guards are going to score 40 points a game on these guys. Once again, they got a couple pieces. This Bridges situation is a complete mess. Rooting for that guy's failure. I don't know why he's on the team right now, but just locker room problems. We got former first-round picks being cut because they're acting crazy on the internet. No leadership on this team. I really don't want any part of the Hornets in pretty much any way possible this season.
Michael Jordan ran the organization, so there you go. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Take it how you get it. Jovan, who we putting some money on in this category? Assist leader.
Assist leader. Obviously Jokic is always the good one to go with. I would consider Drew Holiday at 25-1. I think, with Tatum and Brown, and you now got Porzingis, like the assist opportunities are going to be there. Obviously, Holiday is still going to get his, but I'm leaning Holiday. I know it's weird to say at 25-1, but knowing the guy that he's playing with on the perimeter, I think he could get there. Even though Jokic, if he averages triple double, he might be the guy too.
Yeah, 100%. You know what I'm saying? Stu, same question. Who's the man in this category?
I'm looking down the list and I'm seeing some crazy names here, but is Russell Westbrook 40-1 that crazy?
Oh, God.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
But to be honest, when we think of what needs to happen, right? Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, these are not guys that stay healthy. Apparently, Russ is already in the starting lineup, even with those guys healthy. That's the reports early on. He will be the starter there. Assuming no James Harden trade happens, one guy goes down, and suddenly, when he has the ball in his hands, he can get 10 assists in the first quarter. Any given day.
He won't get you 10 wins, but he can get you 10 assists in the first quarter.
Yeah, but hey, I'm not betting on them to win games.
No doubt.
I'd be betting on them to get assists. And just when I look at the list, to me, the toughest part about these guys is how do you get from that 8 assist range, that 7 assist range, that a guy like Drew Holiday's in, to that elite 10, 11 range. I don't think there's very many people that can do it. So for me, Halliburton at the top makes a lot of sense. Trae Young at the top makes a lot of sense. I don't think I can bet on anyone else beyond those two guys because getting from that 8 to that 10 is so hard. Russell Westbrook, he's been at the 12. He's been at the 13 before. Yeah. You don't get that kind of exposure anywhere. So I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah, no doubt. Not a bad one either. All right, 3-point leader. Obviously, Steph Curry, leader in the clubhouse, shortest odds at -170. And then with Steph Curry, I believe he's made a 3 in something like 250 something games or something like that. So that streak right there will continue on into this season. After that is obviously Damian Lillard at 7-1, Klay Thompson at +750. Then you got Anthony Simons 11-1, LaMelo Ball 12-1, Donovan at 14-1. So yeah, this is where's Klay? Well, where's Klay at? You know what I'm saying? No Klay on this list. Interesting. Yeah, but this is Buddy Hield, Donovan Mitchell, Van Vliet, Luka, Tyler Hero, Jordan Poole. A lot of these chuck guys, you know what I'm saying? But the real contenders, Curry. Oh, there goes Klay right there. I already said him. Curry. I wouldn't say Klay is a real contender. Curry and Lillard, to me, are the real contenders. Am I missing somebody, Jovan?
No, I think Curry and Lillard, like you said, are the contenders. And I would even say Jordan Poole because we talked about it,
It's
earlier.
crazy, right?
He's going to get
party.
he's going to get the attempts. Like the attempts will be there. Like they don't. Obviously, Porzingis is not there no more. That backcourt, you lost some firepower with Bradley Beal. Somebody has to take shots next to Kyle Kuzma, and we already saw Poole drop 41 in the preseason. So anything's possible, and he's going to have that green light to just chuck it up there. So I would put him in the running too.
What do you think? What do you think, Stu?
Hey, you don't know me if you don't know I already got some money on that 30-1 on Poole right there. I mean, got the green light. I will say I told my guy Joe DeLera from Action Network on the Curry to win it. He wins it every year. I tell this guy every year. It works every year. I got it minus 150, so line chop around a little bit. But at the end of the day, he's the king. And I think you can bet a couple long shots. I got a little bit of money on Poole. I got a little money on Anafri Simons as well. Obviously, you talked about Dame. Mm-hmm. Look at the whole Dame opens up. This is a guy that was already taking 7-8 threes.
He doesn't get cheated. Simons does not get cheated. You know what I'm saying? So interesting stuff right there. Before we get out of here, I want to do a little points per game over under. Tell you the player, tell you the number. Curious you guys' thoughts over or under. Damian Lillard, New Milwaukee Buck, 27.5. Jovan, over or under. Points per game.
Over.
Ooh, over 27.5. Where you guys, Stu?
Yeah, over 2. That defense is going to give up 27 to the other point guard, so he's going to have
opposing point guards. There you go. All right, let's go. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Stu, you set it off this time. SGA, first round, just top 5 fantasy draft pick, 30 and 8 or 30.9.
Yeah, that's
a big number.
It's so high. I mean, we got Chet's here now, Jalen Williams another year. I got to go under, but it's going to be close. It's going to be that 28, 29 range, but I can't go to 31 there.
Can you go to 31 on SGA, Jovan?
Nah, I'm gonna go under too because, like he mentioned, they have Chet now. That's going to help out offensively. Jalen Williams another year. Lou Dort there as well. Isaiah Joe off the bench, putting up shots. I'm going to go under, but like Stu said, it's going to be close, like very close.
Kevin Durant, the Slim Reaper, easy money sniper, 26.7, Jovan, for Kevin Durant, the pride of Prince George's County.
I'm taking over. I think, he's for the Suns to be competitive in the West and for them to reach whatever goal that they have to this year, he's going to have to score. He's stay healthy as well. So I'm going to take that over.
You take over 55 games played?
Ooh. I'm going to say, yeah. I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take the over.
Stu, what do you think? KD, 26 and 26.7.
Yeah, I'll take the over on points, under on games played right there. I don't know. I don't know if he's making it more, probably half of the season is what we're looking at right here. But when he's in there, he's efficient. One of the best scorers we've ever seen, right? I mean, it's kind of, I can't imagine. I was going to say under, honestly, first, but I can't imagine opening up that ESPN app and seeing 25 this season. This is Kevin Durant we're talking about. Right. So I think he ends up in that 27, 28 range.
Yeah, no doubt. Kevin Durant, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to the kid, Kevin Durant. Here's an interesting one. De'Aaron Fox had that big year last year. Light the beam. Sacramento Kings getting it done. 25.2 for De'Aaron Fox, Stu.
Yeah, there's a reason Vegas is not broke. That's a good line right there. That's right on the number. That's where I see him. Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time picking a side. I think gun to my head, I'll say the over. I think it's a fast-paced, high-tempo team. But I don't know if I see De'Aaron Fox taking that superstar leap and going to 26, 27. That's kind of what you're asking for. 25 feels like the perfect line. So I probably wouldn't bet the over or under, to be honest.
What do you think, Jovan? 25 for De'Aaron Fox.
I'm in the same boat as Stu. I wouldn't bet the over or under. This is likely going to be a push just because you also got to consider Keegan Murray another year in that offense in the summer league that he had where he was just lighting dudes up, from the perimeter. And then you add in Sabonis getting his shots. So I'm going to say it's going to be a push.
We push on that one. What about my boy Jalen Brunson, Jovan, 24.4, New York Knicks fan favorite?
24. I'm going to take the over. They're going to need it because there's going to be nights when Barrett doesn't have it, and there's probably going to be nights when Julius Randle doesn't have it. So hey, we saw Tom Thibodeau have no problem putting the ball in Brunson's hands and letting him go to work. So I'm taking the over.
Gonna be plenty of nights when Barrett don't have it, Stu.
Yeah, I like that. I'm staying the same. I'm going Brunson over, and then Randall, who's at the same number. I'd go under with Randall as well. I think Brunson takes the benefit this year.
Here's an interesting one. Paolo Banchero, 21.5, Stu, for no, wait a minute, it's 21.9. Paolo Banchero, 21.9. So just about right at that 22 points per game for the second year Blue Devil.
I think it has to be him. I saw a chat guy earlier talked about Franz Wagner. There's not much competition here. When we talk about all these other teams, there's another 1A, 1B. For me, there's not a 1B. I like Franz, but not as a scorer, right? Mm-hmm. So who else is scoring 25 a game on this team? I don't see another name. So for that reason, I think I have to go over. I think this offense is going to be built around Paolo this year.
What do you think, Jovan? Paolo.
I'm taking the over too. I think, like he said, Franz is more of a guy that can do a little bit of everything. Rebound, assist. Like if you get 16, 15 points from Franz, you'll take it. But the guy that you want to run the ball to and have those point guards facilitate to is going to be Banchero. So I'm going to take the over too.
All right. Orlando going to the play-in tournament this year?
I mean, they'll make it. They'll make it to the play-in. Do you think they'll win any games? I like the way they built their team. They're kind of like
the play-in tournament. The play-in tournament.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, close enough to the playoffs, right? I mean, you're pretty. Oh yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think so. Probably. I think this will be a mid-tier team. They'll be stuck in the middle. I don't know if they're going to be good enough to be great, but I think they'll keep making improvements.
Because if a team like Orlando end up in the play-in tournament, Jovan, that means a team like Atlanta could possibly not make it. What the hell is going on in Atlanta?
I think that's what everybody's trying to figure out. What is this team going to look like? Second year now with the Murray, Trae Young backcourt, Quinn Snyder. You don't have John Collins there anymore, so that kind of opens up that 4 position. It's a weird team because I feel like when they're good, but then they're going to have off nights where they just look out of sorts. And you hope if you're a Hawks fan that they figure out that backcourt, because I feel like that backcourt still doesn't flow as it should.
Yeah, it is a nasty situation. Let's get a couple more and let's get up out of here. Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man, Stu, 26.3. A lot of people in love with Edwards coming into the season, so the sports book may be playing with this number a little bit.
Yeah, this is one we hit on while you were out with the internet stuff right there. We both like the over right here. And on the preview show I did earlier for Sportstopia where we talked about this division, I got a little bit of MVP money there as well. So I like the number. We both like the over on that one.
All right, both like the over on that one right there. Let me see if I can get something. Bradley Beal on his new team. How about this, Jovan? Bradley Beal, 21.1. Bradley Beal now a member of the Phoenix Suns. I would go under on this.
I would take I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna take the under too, just because I feel like obviously the top 2 scoring options, Durant and Booker, and I could see Bill kind of playing that facilitator role because they don't really have a de facto point guard, so I could see him kind of doing that. And for Bill, his 3-point shot, it's kind of concerned that his numbers have dropped, and I think that plays a part in that under too.
All right, what do you think, Stu? Your former guy, Bradley Beal, now out there in the Valley of the Sun.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you're the third, most talented player on the superstar trio, right? But the thing is always injury, right? Because to me, you could be looking great at the under, maybe averaging 16, 17, and suddenly KD's down for 10, 15 games.
Yeah, that's true.
Down. And then we know Beal can do it. He's had back-to-back 30 points per game seasons. So to me, I would lean the under, but I don't know if I would play it just because the injury concern is just too much right there. Those couple weeks where he could take over might kill your bet.
All right. NBA regular season kicks off tomorrow. We'll be here. Matter of fact, it'll be me and Jovan here tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? We'll get you started, and we got you covered every day right here on this 10 a.m. Eastern time slot in the morning. What else do we got? Oh, don't forget sportstopia.io. Go over there, get your fantasy basketball rankings. Get ready to hit the waiver wire, get your lineup set. They got you covered and all your football stuff as well. and that QR code right there. Hit that. That's how you make money in daily fantasy sports. For Jovan and Stu, is Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Thank you for your patience. We are out.